Welcome to our lesson on commercial arithmetic. In this particular lesson, we are looking at interest. Now, interest is an amount that is paid for a service such as borrowing money, for example. When you borrow money from someone or from a financial institution, it simply means you are given money to use which does not belong to you. So there is a fee that is charged for that service. For you to use money which does not belong to you, they charge you an amount which is called interest, and interest is calculated as a percentage of whatever amount that you are going to borrow. So we're going to look at just how interest is calculated. There are two types of interest. There is simple interest and there is compound interest. So there is a very small difference between these two types. By definition, a simple interest is simply just the amount which is paid as interest. So if you are borrowing a certain amount, if you borrow 1,000 kwacha, for example, the amount that you need to pay on top of the 1,000 kwacha, if you're going to pay back 1,000 kwacha plus an amount like maybe 100 kwacha, so that 100 kwacha alone, that is the money which will be called the simple interest. All right. Whereas compound interest, it simply means the amount that you borrowed plus the interest plus the simple interest. So that gives you the compound interest. So simple interest is simply the interest amount without the money that you borrowed, which is normally called the principal. So simple interest is just the amount that should be paid on top of the principal. Then compound interest, it simply means the principal that was borrowed plus the simple interest altogether. As you are going to return the money, it means you are returning the compound amount or compound interest as it is calculated. So there are two expressions for these types of interests. The calculation for simple interest is given as I, which is the interest amount, is equal to the principal that is borrowed times the interest rate as a percentage, then times the time which has elapsed, or the time of borrowing in years. Then of course the rate is a percentage, which means it's over 100. So this is the formula for simple interest. Okay, this is the formula for simple interest. If we look at an example, okay, let's say one borrows a principal of 10,000 kwacha. Okay, if one borrows a principal of 10,000 kwacha at an interest rate of 20% over a period of 2 years, then what will be the interest? Okay, so we can get this calculation into the formula and find the interest. So we'll simply say the interest is equal to, this is an example here. So we are going to say the interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time, then over 100. So we substitute the values. Principal is 10,000 times the rate, which is 20%, times the period of borrowing, which is 2 years, over 100. So simplifying that, it would mean we are going to have 100 times 20 times 2. Okay, so that will give us a total of 4,000. So this is just the interest that will be accumulated on the principal, the interest amount, all right, over a period of 2 years, which means if this money, 10,000 kwacha, which was borrowed, is to be returned after 2 years, it will be returned as 10,000 kwacha plus 4,000 kwacha, which means what will be returned will be 14,000 kwacha. Okay. Whereas the compound interest, the formula is given as the amount to be paid back. The amount to be paid back is equal to the amount which is borrowed, the principal, times 1 plus the interest rate over 100, everything in brackets here raised to the power of the period of borrowing, right? So if we look at an example, if we say the principal that is borrowed is, let's say the principal which is borrowed is 5,000 kwacha, and the interest rate is 10%, and the period of borrowing is 2 years. So what will be the amount to be paid back? So we are going to declare the statement and say the amount to be paid back will be the principal times 1 plus the interest rate over 100 times the period. So we'll get the principal, which is 5,000, into 1 plus the interest rate is 10 over 100 to the power, the period n is 2 years. So this simplifies to 5,000 times, in here we have 1 plus 100 divided by 10 divided by 100 is 0.1, then to the power 2, which means we have 5,000 times 1.1 squared. So 1.1 squared is 1.21. So we have 5,000 times 1.21 will give us 6,050 kwacha. 6,050 kwacha. Okay, so this amount is the total that will be paid back. Like we mentioned earlier, the compound interest simply means you are calculating the principal plus the interest together. So the 6,500, it means there is the principal 5,000 kwacha which was borrowed, plus an interest of 1,050 kwacha, which has accumulated over a period of 2 years at the rate of 10%. So normally when you are calculating the compound interest, you are finding the total amount to be paid back, the principal plus the interest. If you are using the simple interest formula, it means you are just solving to know the interest on top of the principal. So sometimes you can arrive at the compound interest by calculating the simple interest at the end of every year, and then you will be able to know how much interest will be paid in total at the end of the period of borrowing. So as it is, you can use the compound interest to know the total amount that should be paid back. All right, because the compound interest gives us the full picture of what should be paid, which is the principal plus the interest that gives us the compound interest.